Let me share with you 3 of my best all-time driver videos. You know, driving doesn't have to be that complicated, especially when you get some of the secrets that I'm going to share with you here. Let's go and get started. Now, there's a few common setup issues that I see time and time again, and I think it stems from the axe motion. It feels really powerful when we have a golf club. Let's imagine this is a golf club for a second. If I feel like I'm going to hit this golf ball and I bring this thing over my head and I chop down into the golf ball, it feels like I have tons and tons of power, tons and tons of speed. I feel like I could have chopped that golf ball in 2. And I think every golfer, from when they very begin to start playing, they want to feel that really powerful motion. Well, in golf, unfortunately, that doesn't really work. Instead of having that over the head chop type motion, and I'll fix that, don't worry about the tee, you need to be coming from the inside, get the club in the slot, and then feel like you can deliver that club with a good path to have tons of power and tons of speed. If we continue to set up in ways that get us into that chopping type position, we're going to lose speed, we're going to lose distance. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 of the most common setup myths, setup problems that get you into that chopping position rather than being into a powerful position where we can get into the slot. Once you get set up the right way, you're going to hit the ball a lot farther. All right, so let's jump right in here. Let's talk about the first issue that can really wreak havoc on your speed. And if I'm kind of imagining that powerful feeling of me coming down and chopping into this golf ball, we all know we don't want to do that, but it feels so good doing that. If I visualize that, one thing that I'll do with my setup is I'll set up in a position where I would have a lot of power coming down in this angle. And if you notice my shoulders, so if I was to put a golf club across my shoulders here, this would be level with the ground. This would be a little tilt away from the target, my head getting farther behind the ball, my spine being kind of angled away from the golf ball. That's really good. But if I'm set up in a way that I feel like I'm going to come down into this golf ball really powerfully, a lot of times what will happen is my shoulders will get level. I'll get too far kind of to the left if you're looking at my shoulders. And now I'm in this position that feels like I can slam down in this golf ball with a lot of speed, with a lot of energy, but it really just doesn't work in golf. So that's the first key. What I want you to do, go ahead right now, even if you're not on the driving range, grab a club, grab a broom, whatever you have to do, follow right along with me on this. And this is really going to help a ton. Put a club across your shoulders. So hold it right on the tips of your shoulders here. Go ahead and bend forward into your posture. And then I'm going to feel like my belt buckle goes a little forward toward the target. My upper body gets a little bit more behind it here. My head's behind the golf ball. My chest is behind the golf ball. And you're going to notice how I create a little bit of an angle with my club there. So just a slight angle is plenty. I don't have to go like this and go really a ton. But what I want you to do is set up very level. And then I want you to tilt away, let's call that about 10 degrees or so with my shoulder angle. Doesn't have to be more than that. A little more, a little less, not a big deal. So go ahead and do that about 15 to 20 times just to get comfortable getting behind that golf ball, just like this. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with my golf club, repeating that same action. So here I'm setting up, I'm getting a little tilt away, and now all of a sudden I've tilted everything much more to the inside. I've created this big area right here where I can swing my hands and arms from the inside. I can get that club into the slot, and that's going to make it a lot easier to create the real speed that we need and not that over-the-top type speed. Let's go ahead and try that out. I'm going to hinge forward, a little tilt to my shoulders, my head is behind the golf ball. Let's give it a whirl. Okay, nice draw right down the left side of the fairway. All right, now the second piece of this is going to be a little trick with your elbow. If you get your elbow in the right position, it makes it so much easier to come down from the slot, come down from the inside like we're talking about, to get rid of that axe chop type move that kills our distance, kills our power. So what we're going to do here, and the way I want you to do this, go ahead and set up to the golf ball. If you're in your living room, just set up to an imaginary golf ball, either way is fine. And I'm going to get in my shoulder tilt first. Now I'm going to get about 10 or 15 degrees or so of shoulder tilt like I talked about. And then from there, that's when I'm going to add my hand. So if I add my right hand from this position, it's going to be much more under or from the inside when I'm adding the right hand. That helps me to get my shoulders a little more square to the target. It helps promote that tilt. It helps promote me coming more from the inside when I'm doing that. So if you look at my palm of my right hand, it's going to feel much more underneath the club versus if I'm too level with my shoulders and I add the right hand on there, now all of a sudden my palm is on top of the club. That's what's called a weak grip, and it's very easy for that to turn into a slice or kind of chop down over the top move. So get in the tilt, 15 or 20 reps, add the right hand in there, and then we're going to close our grip. So a little bit goes a long way. You don't have to have the hand way under here like this, like I'll see some people really trying to exaggerate it. Just get it a little bit to the right. If you're looking for a few key checkpoints there, I'm looking for the index finger and my thumb, if I cinch those together, that's going to be pointed roughly toward my right shoulder. So that's when you know you're getting about the right amount of it. It should look something like that. The second piece of this right hand trick is what I talked about with the elbow. A big mistake when you get your shoulders too level. I'm going to put this hand on top, palm down, and now my elbow pit is pointed toward the target. That sets me up way too level with my shoulders, way too far to the left, and I really have nothing I can do from this position rather than to chop down over the top and really make a weak swing here. So as I'm adding my right hand, I want to feel like my elbow, if I look at the pointy part of my elbow, the bottom of my elbow, I'm going to feel like it's in toward my hip a little bit when I'm doing that. Now you can also see from this position, if I'm looking from down the line, how that's a little bit under my right forearm. So I'm exaggerating here so you can see that on camera, but this is under or lower. This would be over top. I don't want this or I'm going to really chop down into it. So set up, get your tilt, add your right hand, palm up, and then feel like that elbow is kind of towards your hip there. Now I'm in a powerful position where I can really get it inside from the slot and get that great, really athletic setup. Now the third piece of this really athletic, powerful setup is going to be my stance. And I see players all the time go wrong with this, and it's actually become some pretty common instruction the last few years, is we want our stance fairly narrow or just shoulder width apart. Now, we could argue that, but there's a great test for this. Here's what I want you to do. Go ahead and set up to the golf ball, and I want you to start with your stance really, really narrow. Just have your feet almost together, touching. What I'm going to do is go ahead and make a swing now, and I'm going to try to kill this golf ball. I'm going to try to hit it absolutely as hard as I can and see how far I can hit my driver. I'm even going to get my tilts and everything like I was trying to do with my shoulders and my arm, and let's see what happens. I smoked that one. That's about as good as I can hit one swinging from that way. Down the right center of the fairway. According to my flight scope, I swung 107 miles an hour. And about as daggone good as I could hit one. I hit one 280, so not too bad. If everything else in your body is working well, if your hands, arms, shoulders, all that is delivering the club properly, you can do a lot of things with the lower body wrong and still get some good distance like I was talking about there, what I showed there. Now what I want you to do is gradually widen that stance up. Let me grab a couple golf balls here. And I'm gradually going to go wider and wider until I find my most athletic stance width. So you don't have to listen to me. I'm not in charge of exactly what you have to do. Find out for yourself. Start very narrow and then go wider and wider in your stance until you feel like you're the most athletic. For you, let's say you have this really wide, powerful stance like this, that's okay. As long as you move your feet a little bit, that's going to be completely fine. You can set up that way and still be really good. What I've found for most players is they like to set up, and I've tested this with quite a few players, a little wider than shoulder width apart. So if I stand straight up and down, you can see about how wide my feet are here. If I drew a line vertically from the ankle, it would be outside my shoulders, both my right foot and my left foot. This is about the most athletic I can get for my own personal stance. This is about the width that I see for most players. So a couple inches wider than your shoulders is perfect. Look at Rory McIlroy, the longest pound for pound hitter on the PGA Tour. You're gonna see a nice wide stance like this. This is athletic. My legs are bent. I feel like I could really drive off the ground when I'm doing this. Now, the one thing you don't wanna do from here is I don't wanna keep my feet still. I don't wanna keep my feet kind of suctioned to the ground there and be swinging all arms. I have to go ahead and let my feet move. On my backswing, my left heel is gonna come up slightly. On my follow through, I'm really gonna let that right foot rotate all the way around. That's a very, very good key. But as long as I'm doing that, I can go as wide as I want and still have the movement and the freedom in my golf swing. So here, I'm gonna go ahead and set up what I feel like is my most powerful stance, and let's tie all three things that I talked about together. Number one, I have a little bit of a shoulder tilt. Number two, my right hand is coming into the club a little bit more from the bottom with my right elbow pit up. Number three, I have that nice athletic wide stance, a little bit of knee bend. I feel like I'm playing shortstop here. And now I'm in a position where I can really hit this golf ball pretty daggone hard. Let's give it a whirl. All right, hit that one nicely, right down the center. Hey guys, welcome to beautiful Heathrow Country Club in Lake Mary, Florida, my home course. And we're gonna talk about 3 tips that are really gonna help you to hit your driver much better. Now, when you get up to those holes, they got a little bit of water on them. Maybe you get to those par 5s like this. It's just so much more enjoyable to smoke a driver right down the middle of the fairway and not even have to worry about being in the rough or out of bounds or that kind of thing. So we're gonna do 3 things that you absolutely must do to hit your best drives. Let's go and get started. All right, so the first piece I want to talk about is what I call snap, don't slap. So nobody wants to slap at the ball. We don't want to lose that club head speed. And when we slap at the ball, basically what that means is I'm using my hands kind of back and forth this way. Oftentimes I'll cast a little bit, and then the club head outraces my hands, and I end up kind of slapping at the ball. The disadvantage of that is now my club face is very inconsistent. One time it's closed, one time it's open, and I'm also gonna have a tough time getting speed from this. So let me go ahead and hit one. I'll talk a little bit about this slow motion video that's gonna come up here in a second. So I'm gonna try to slap at this ball, really cast it from the top. Yeah, and I hooked that ball 40 yards to the left, almost onto the road. Hopefully I didn't hit a car over there, but it's very difficult to be consistent when I'm doing that. There's no way I can hit a fairway when I'm swinging this way. What's happening is, if we look at our wrist, and we kind of put them in front of us. If I bend my wrist to the right this way, this would be flexion with my left wrist. It's called extension with the right wrist. We don't need to know those terms. That would be to the right and then back to the left. A lot of times people think we need to get speed by doing this and by kind of pushing the club through to help to accelerate it. When I do that, that starts to flip the club, to slap the club, and it's going to outrace my hands. Anytime the club head gets in front of your hands before contact, you are dead in the water. It is going to be almost impossible to have control of that club face. When it outraces them, it becomes very, very unstable. That's a slap motion, and that's exactly what you're seeing here. Now, a snap motion is very different. I still want that club to release, so I want to have some lag. I want to get that club to whip on through. It's snapping. I'm getting that speed at the bottom, but it's when I'm doing that and how I'm doing that that's going to make a world of difference. So as I'm about halfway in my downswing, you'll notice that's what we call our maximum lag position. So in that max lag, now I've created this big angle with my hands and my arms. My body's going ahead and opening up, and as I continue down, now my club still has a pretty good size angle in it. If you look at the butt end of this club, if you imagine a laser beam kind of shooting out of there, it's not turned back up yet. My club isn't pointing back up toward my body. It's pointing out kind of down the fairway. Now from here, to get that club to really release, I want to snap the club head. That's when I'm going to start turning this club head back up, or this grip back up, to release the club head and to get a lot of speed from the club head there. So that's what we call the snap action. You can call it the release, you can call it whatever you want to. And the big key to really put this together that we talk about in the Top Speed Golf system is I want this to release about 45 degrees in front of me. So if I imagine a line going from my chest 45 degrees out in front, whenever that club gets fully released, now it's going to be pointing in that direction. So I'm still letting that club whip on through or snap through, but it's not a slap. I'm letting that happen in front of the golf ball, and now my club is just kind of trailing along behind. The golf ball is just getting in the way. I'm releasing out in front, and that impact is just happening. So let me go ahead and hit one here the correct way. We'll show you some in slow motion. I'll give you a couple tips on how to do this exactly. There we go, hit that one great, right down the middle of the fairway. I got that lag, and then I got that to release out in front. Now in the first one, we talked about how we didn't want to push with the hands or wrist, because now my club head outraces my hands and it gets really unstable. In this one, now I'm taking my hands here down at the ball. You'll notice my right wrist is angled back in what we call wrist extension, or my knuckles back to my elbow. I'm going to feel like my palm of my hand is still facing down to the ground. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and feel like I do this motion. So if I'm casting a fishing pole, my thumb goes from up to really going down this way. That's what's called ulnar deviation, or just a casting or a flip type motion. I'm doing that way down here at the ball in that type of a direction. So my hand isn't going this way and cupping, it's going down, just like I'm doing this with a fishing pole. And now as I do that in front of the golf ball, that's going to release that club. Notice how here, both my wrists are nice and straight. There's no bend in those at all. If I was flipping, that would look like this as I'm coming through impact. And my wrist would be cupped here, and it would be bent forward like that with this other hand. That's going to lead to a lot of inconsistency if you're doing that. So let's pause just before impact. We got a nice angle. This wrist is flat. At this point, my thumb is pulled back toward my body. I've got all this lag, and then we're going to pause in the straight line release in the Top Speed Golf system, and we're going to work on this thumb being down. So I went from the up to down. That's that whip action that's happening through there. That's that snap. And when I do this correctly, I feel like I'm just gonna take the bottom 2 inches of this grip with my bottom 2 fingers. That's where I'm gonna feel the pressure there. And I'm just gonna snap the shaft, snap that grip right off the club. That's gonna help with a ton of speed. So let's go ahead and pause and do that about 15, 20 times. Pausing here, and then boom, releasing that, pausing here, wrist nice and flat, wrist turned down. After we've done that about 20 times, let's get that same feeling in more of a full swing, just a practice swing there. So we're not gonna hit any balls yet, we're just gonna get used to that feeling, and then we can go ahead and take it on out to the driving range and start hitting some shots and then out onto the course. All right, so that's piece number 1, snap, don't slap. Piece number 2, it's the same old saying we've heard for a long time, but with a new twist, we're gonna tee it high and let it fly. Now the reason you wanna tee this ball high is a couple of things. So first off, if I have a great drive, what's happening are 2 things. Number 1, I'm gonna hit this ball a little bit higher on the club face. Now, as I start to hit it a little higher on the club face, there's actually more loft on the top of your driver. Your driver isn't flat like a sheet of metal. It's actually rounded. If you were to take this and bring this out into a full circle, it actually makes about a 3-foot circle is how the face is curved. So it has a slight curve to it, meaning at the bottom of the driver, you're gonna have a lot less loft. This is an 8.5 degree driver. At the bottom, there's probably 5 or 6 degrees, 4 degrees, something like that. At the top, there's probably 12 or 13 degrees. So if I hit it at the top of the face, it's gonna launch higher. That's great for distance. That's what we really want. The second piece is, as I make contact higher, it actually has a gear effect, and the ball is stuck to the face and actually puts a little top spin, not really top spin, just less backspin, and it gets the ball to knuckle through the air. That's a real key for high, long drives. The higher I can hit it, hitting it on the top of the face, and the less spin I can have, also hitting on the top of the face, means the longer drives that I'm gonna have. That's the first piece. The second piece to this is I actually wanna be swinging up on the ball. Again, if I'm coming down on it, I'm kind of swiping across the ball, and now I'm getting all this backspin. The ball wants to shoot up, kind of float in the air, and then fall out of the sky. You don't get any kind of good distance. But if I can set this ball up where I'm actually swinging up on it, now again, it's gonna promote that higher launch, and it's gonna promote that lower spin. So the more I can hit up on this golf ball, the better I'm gonna be for creating as much distance as I can. Well, if I have the ball low on the ground, let's imagine this ball is barely teed up on the ground, just like this, it's teed up on the turf. If I swing up, if I try to hit up on this, now I'm gonna miss over top of the ball. No way to make it happen. Plus, there's no way to hit it anywhere but the bottom of the face. So I want this ball teed up nice and high so that I can hit it on an ascending angle, on an upward angle, and still make contact with the top of the face. Now with your iron shots, it's gonna be on the ground. We're gonna have to hit down on it. If we had the luxury of teeing up iron shots, we'd do the same thing, but we don't. We have to hit it off the ground. That's why you hit down and take a divot with your irons. That's the easiest way to hit it off the ground, and that's why this is different with the driver. So a couple things that we wanna note here, and I'll show you some slow motion video with this also. I'm gonna play this up in my stance slightly. I got the ball teed up. For me, I like to have it at least a half a ball above the club or a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and tee this on about 3/4 of the golf ball sticking up above the crown. I'm gonna have that a little bit up in my stance. If I really wanna get a hold of one, get some extra distance, I'm gonna play it up here toward my front foot. Again, that's gonna help promote me hitting it on the upswing. And then number 3, I'm gonna visualize in my mind that I'm gonna go ahead and knock it off the top of the face. I don't wanna get anywhere near the bottom of the face or it's gonna kill my distance. So I put the ball up in my stance, I've got it teed up nice and high, and now I'm gonna feel like I'm swinging up on the ball and de-lofting the face so that I still get that high knuckler, almost a little bit of top spin on the ball is the way that you wanna think about this. So if I do those things, man, that's really gonna help me to increase my distance. That one felt great. Big high ball, knuckled through the wind, really nice shot. Now I saved the best for last. I know a lot of you guys out there are having those balls that slice. If you get into any kind of wind or you struggle at all with distance, that slice is absolutely just gonna eat up your distance really, really badly. So if I wanna hit it farther, I've gotta hit a little bit of a draw or at least dead straight shot if I wanna get the maximum distance on there. That's gonna get the least amount of spin. That's gonna help the ball to really launch pretty fast. So when I'm setting up to this golf ball, a lot of times what I have people visualize is that they're coming through and the face is really square. And they imagine they're just gonna kind of pull this club through square and the ball's gonna go right down the middle of the fairway. And when they have that visualization in their mind, because they struggle a little bit with a slice, the ball just tails off to the right and tends to slice. If you feel like you're gonna hit it square and 90% of the time it's either fading or slicing, this is really gonna help you. So I wanna imagine the club face, imagine that piece of metal is gonna wrap around the outside of the ball. So if I'm looking at this golf ball from my perspective, and I kind of put a line through the middle of the ball, that would be dead square. If I hit right on that line, that would be a square shot. Now when we do that, like we just talked about, we tend to slice. That means my club was actually a little bit on the inside of that line. What I want you to feel like you're doing is to get that club to wrap around to the outside of the golf ball and hit on the outside of that line. Now what that's doing is that's closing the face a little bit more. And when you first do this, you're gonna start to hit some shots to the left. That's okay, that just means you're doing a little bit too much, but that ball is gonna start left and it's gonna hook even a little bit more to the left, especially for you guys that are coming over the top. Now I'm getting to the outside of that ball and it's starting left, going even farther left. That's all right, let's start out on the range doing this, and I want you to hit those shots that do go to the left, and then gradually we're gonna start to come a little bit more from the inside. I'm gonna feel like if I'm at home plate and the second base and the baseball field is directly in front of me, I'm swinging more out toward first base or the visitor's dugout. And now I'm gonna be releasing that club, getting it to outside the ball. So what's gonna happen is the ball's gonna start a little bit straighter and then it's gonna draw. After you've gotten a few of these in where that ball actually starts to turn on over a decent amount, let's just tone that down a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and hit one and really exaggerate though. I'm coming inside and out and I'm letting that face turn over. Now as I'm doing this, the feeling that I'm getting in my hands, if you go ahead and set this club up here, is that I'm taking this club and I'm twisting it just like I'm turning a clock. Like if you can imagine the butt end of the club is a clock face and I'm gonna turn that, that's rolling the club. You'll notice when I do that, my left wrist bows. That's what everybody wants at impact. That really helps, that's what the pros are doing. And my right wrist kind of turns knuckles back this way. That's what's gonna release that face as I'm doing that. So we can see that would really get that face to turn on over. I'm gonna exaggerate here, hopefully we can see this on camera, but I'm really gonna get this one to swing from right to left. There we go, so we saw that one started down the middle of the fairway, hooked over to the left, almost by the trees. I'm right on track. That's what I wanna have happen at first if I'm struggling with that slice. Now the second piece to this, after you've hit about 15 or 20 balls doing that, and you've got the feel for that, I'm just gonna tone down a little bit. Don't let that club release quite as much to the outside of the ball, and don't swing quite as far to the right, and now you're gonna have that little baby draw that everybody wants to have to get the maximum distance. All right, guys, so take those 3 tips. Number 1, snap, don't slap. Number 2, tee it high, get that ball to launch high with low spin. And number 3, get that club head to the outside of the ball to get that nice draw. Hey guys, welcome back. I got an awesome video. It's really gonna help you out with your driver. I'm gonna give you some of my best tips to smooth out your swing, to hit the ball a lot straighter, and to have that great finish just like we all want. Let's go and get started. All right, so it all starts with our 3 transitions, and there's 3 major transitions in the swing. That's from when your club is sitting stationary behind the ball to when it very first starts moving. That's your first transition. So it's transitioning from stopped to starting the swing. That's one key area we want to get right. The second transition is from the top of the swing, starting the downswing. So when our hands stop going back and start going down. And then number 3, when we finish the swing, when my hands come around to a good full finish, and they're stopping there. If I can make each of these 3 transitions really, really smooth, your accuracy is gonna go through the roof. It makes the golf swing a lot easier to control because it makes the face a lot easier to feel. We're gonna get to that even more in the second part of this drill. But let's start out with the first transition here. This is gonna be from stopping to starting the swing. What I want you to do is go ahead and let's knock a ball off the tee. Let's just make some practice swings here. And I'm gonna see just how smooth I can take the club from being stopped to started. Now, if you're doing this really good, it's almost tough to see when the club actually starts to move. So if you're watching just the club head, you'll see that I'm really making it slow and then going to the top, and then I'm gonna swing all the way on through. So we're just focusing in on the very first piece, but I want you to make a full swing back and through so it builds us into more of a realistic type swing. If I just set the club down here and I start my transition, and then I go to there and then go back again and start my transition, that's great. But when I put a ball there, I try to make a real swing, it's not really gonna relate. You're not building that muscle memory. So again, let's do 10 total shots, 10 total swings, where we try to make this swing as smooth as possible to start our transition, the top, and then we're all the way on through to a good full finish. Now we're gonna bring in the second piece, where we do 10 more going at the second transition, which is going from the top of the swing starting down. Now the key to this one is to get a good wide backswing. If I cut off my backswing short, let's imagine I make this first transition really, really smooth, but I stop my swing right here with my hands just about shoulders height, it's going to be really tough to be smooth. I only have from here to here where my hands are going to be at impact to create speed. Now, do you think you could create maybe 120 miles an hour club head speed like the pros in this little tiny short period of distance? Almost impossible to do. So we've got to lengthen this up as much as we can. The drill I want you to do for this is actually not making a golf swing, but just kind of making a practice swing with it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to feel like I'm turning around and putting my hands up above my head here. Now this isn't a golf swing again. We're going to turn our eye completely off the ball. We're going to turn our head all the way back, but we're just going to make this as long as we can. So again, smooth transition, and I'm going to go all the way up here. I won't even look behind me until I get my hands as far back as I can go, and then I'll swing through. So really smooth, let the hands turn all the way back, and then I'm going to come all the way on around. So it's kind of goofy, not really a golf swing. Your head's moving around. You wouldn't be able to hit a ball doing that, but it really gets you to stretch out and get farther back. Now we've done a few of those. Let's go ahead and make this more like a real golf swing. You're still trying to go far back, but again, from when you stop your backswing and start your downswing, really, really smooth. Should be tough to differentiate between when you're going back and when you're starting down if we do this correctly. So there's the first smooth one. There's the second smooth one at the top. And then finally, I'm going to finish my swing with a really smooth transition also. As I come on through, I want my hands just to kind of come around and glide to a stop. I don't want my hands to do something like this and really rebound and kick the club back. I want my hands to come through and really slow down very smooth. Let that club come all the way around your head until it's wrapped around. If you're not as flexible, it's completely fine. You don't have to worry about going all the way around like you'd see with Adam Scott or somebody like that. Just go as far as comfortable with you. Now when I put all three of these together, and after I've done a good 5 to 10 practice reps with each of those pieces, start, top, and finish, now I can make a good swing hitting a ball. So I'm gonna feel like these transitions are so smooth, but because I'm creating so much space, you'll be surprised how far this ball actually goes. Just listen to the sound of this when I hit it, even though it's nice and smooth. There we go, that was rocked right down the middle, straight as a string. I would be thrilled with that shot, but I never felt like I rushed at any part of the swing. Let's go ahead and talk about the second piece. All right, now we're gonna work on face direction. I got a really easy drill for you here. What causes the ball to draw is when my path or the direction I'm swinging is to the right, but my face is turning on over to the left. So in this drill, we're really gonna exaggerate. Probably don't recommend that you work on it with a big pond in front of the tee box. It's probably not the best idea because we're gonna be hitting some crazy shots here, but we're just gonna really work on getting that ball to curve a ton to the right, from right to left, and then we're gonna go the other way, get it to curve a ton from left to right. So we're really getting a big draw and then a big fade. From there, it's much easier to straighten things out. What I'm gonna feel when I'm doing this, let me go ahead and move this ball. I'm gonna feel like I turn my entire body inside out. So or kind of where it's swinging the club inside out. So if here's me setting up square to dress, I'm gonna turn everything like there's a giant plane of glass going here out to the right, and then I'm gonna swing down that plane of glass. That's my inside out swing. Go ahead and do this maybe about 15 or 20 times just to get comfortable swinging out to the right this way. Now you'll notice here, my shoulders and my hips are much more closed. You'll notice that most of my weight's gonna feel like it's on the right foot. So as I'm coming and starting my downswing, I feel like it's still on my right foot. I haven't jumped way up here or I'll be swinging to the left. And I'm just letting that club swing on that plane of glass. Now once I get comfortable with that, I'm gonna go ahead and let that face rotate on over. So when I would be hitting the ball, that face is gonna be pointing to the left. So now I'm swinging to the right, but my club face is releasing and pointing to the left. That's gonna get that ball, if we do this drill, to hook a good 20, 30, maybe even 40 yards. Let's try it out. Hopefully we'll be able to see this on camera. I'm not gonna hit it very far. I probably would hit it the distance of the water, but I don't wanna lose my golf ball here. But again, I'm gonna imagine that plane of glass. I'm gonna swing out to the right. See if we can get this thing to really turn on over. Oh, did it get over? Oh, I may have cleared the water by about a foot, but it did exactly what we wanted to do. It's not going to be a pretty shot. You're not going to win any driving records with this, but you're going to get that thing to really turn that way. Now we're going to turn the other way. Let me actually go toward the camera so it's easier to see. On the last one, we had tilted everything this direction. That would look like this as I'm swinging this way. Now we're going to take that same plane of glass, we're going to tilt it in the other direction. You may want to move the ball a little bit farther up towards your front foot as you're doing this, but now I'm going to swing from right to left. So I'll get the ball out of the way, plane of glass is here, and I'm swinging really across the ball. This is a big slice. I'm going to have that face open as I'm coming through here, or pointing what would be to the right, to get it to slice across the ball and get a lot of curvature. So again, 20, 30 swings, just get very, very comfortable getting that shot, that club to curve across the ball, have that face feeling like it's wide open. Most players who struggle with a slice will feel like this is the easiest drill ever, and I'm really going to get that ball to curve from left to right. So that one sliced a lot. That one's got to be in the water. Oh, barely on the edge. So it's not about hitting good shots here, it's just about getting that ball to curve to the right, getting that ball to curve to the left. You're probably thinking of this like, this is probably the dumbest drill I've ever heard in my life. Why in the world, if I'm trying to hit it straight, would I want to have this big curvature on the ball? Well, the reason is once we learn to slice and to draw, or in this case, hook and slice, then we can start to straighten that out. If I get a little too much slice, I can tap into the feeling I had when I hit a draw and just do a little tiny bit of it. And then when I get a little bit too much hook the other way, I can tap into the feeling when I had a slice and straighten it out from there. That's the absolute best way to learn how to straighten the ball out. Now let's kick it up a notch and make it to where we can actually straighten this out. Now we're ready for the straight shots. What I want you to do for this draw shot when we're going to start out, instead of having that ball curve 30 and 40 yards, now I'm just going to have it curve 5 or 10 feet. I'm going to line up slightly toward the right side of the fairway. So I'm lining up toward the right center. I'm imagining that swing path out to the right, and I'm going to do that same thing, except for this time I'm only going to do about 1/10 of what I was doing before to get that ball just to curve a little tiny bit. Let's go ahead and try that out. There we go, nice little tiny draw on that one. That one started down the right center, kind of stayed there, just barely turned back. That means I'm doing exactly what I'm trying to do. Now, if you try to do that swing and you slice one, and that ball starts to the left and starts to curve, we know we really need to exaggerate the opposite feeling. So whatever bad result you're getting, just have the opposite feeling to straighten that out. And I tell you, a lot of times people will watch a video like this, and they'll think, okay, yeah, I get the drill. I don't really need to go out and do that. I get the idea. I'll just kind of maybe practice that every once in a while. I'm telling you, I've worked on this with hundreds of students. I've had entire courses on this. We call this the ball striking master class. I've done really extensive drills on this, and I promise you, if you only do one drill, this is right up there with the best in the world. You want to drive it straight, actually go to the range, work on hitting these different shots, and taking those big curvatures, tightening those up, and then eventually you're going to get where you're hitting that ball dead straight with very little curve on it, and you're going to be able to change the feeling like that. It all comes down to having feeling and awareness of where this club face is, and that's what's really going to help you to hit the driver straight. So don't skip this part of the drill. This, I can't stress, maybe not the most exciting drill in the world, but I tell you, it's going to help your game more than anything else. All right, this part I call lift to launch, and you're going to lift your lead shoulder, your lead hip, and your lead arm to launch the ball. It's going to help you to launch it higher. It's going to help you to get a lot more speed. So like we talked about in some of the other videos, is you got to have a lot of lag to create that speed. This is getting a good angle between my forearm and my club. Now from here, the only way to get speed is I have to get rid of this angle out in front of the golf ball. The straight line release, like we talk about in the top speed golf system, happens in front of the ball. I'm taking this lag, I'm releasing it to the straight line release. The ball's just getting in the way. Now, if I want to get this club to really whip through there with a lot of speed, I have to turn up the handle as hard as I can, and that starts from the ground up. We're going to lift from our hip, our shoulder, and then our arm. Now, the first piece of this is starting from the lower body. As you start your downswing, let's go ahead and get a little bit of a squat here to feel like we're really loaded up into the ground. Now, as we're starting to come down farther, my hands are going to get pretty low. You notice how they're fairly close to the ground, and from here, I want to feel like I lift my front hip. So if you were imagining you were going to kind of squat down like this and lift your hips toward the target, that would be what's called extension, and you can see how my hips are moving upward as this is happening. Same thing's happening in the golf swing. I'm just turned sideways as I'm doing that. Watch my hips and how they lift as I'm coming on through. All I'm doing there is I'm adding rotation with the move where we're just lifting straight up. When you put those two together, that's like a golf swing. The second piece of that is the shoulders. Now they're rotating around just like we worked on that first drill, that plane of glass. As I start to lift my left shoulder and lift from my lower body, notice how this shoulder moves around my body and behind my body. That's a big piece of this club turning up to get the club to whip. Now, since my arm is attached to my body, it's kind of the last piece of the chain. If you watch just the logo of my glove or just my glove hand, here it's low. As my legs and my shoulder lift, that club is gonna, or that hand is gonna move up, and that whips my club through contact. So that's a big piece when you're starting out playing golf, or even golfers that are down to a low single-digit handicap, but you don't have that huge amount of club head speed like you see some players getting. That's letting the club do the work for you, letting the club accelerate under its own speed versus trying to muscle it through there with your hands and arms. So we have to lift to launch this golf ball. Now, we're gonna do a little practice drill here where I want you to bend your legs, get your knees far apart. I'm squatting down, my hands are kind of low, and then from there I'm gonna lift up and I'm gonna have my hands extend out and go nice and high. So the first piece just with the body is that lifting move with rotation. Then I'm gonna add my shoulder to that. This goes back behind my body. Piece number two. Piece number three, I'm gonna let my hands move up and come all the way on through. So that nice high long finish all the way coming around. Put those three pieces together, work on those. A good 20 to 30 practice reps is gonna look something like this. I'm going down, I'm pausing, going real slow, and then I'm coming all the way on around. You can see how that club head wants to take off and really speed up when I do that. 20 to 30 reps, don't worry about hitting a ball doing that yet. Then once you build some muscle memory, once you start to feel pretty comfortable doing that, we can take that to the course, actually hitting a ball. Start out at the driving range going nice and slow, and then gradually build up your speed until we get to the full swing. So now that I'm gonna hit this full swing, you'll see I'm not really trying to hit with a lot of power. I'm nice and smooth, but if you listen to the sound of the ball, it's really gonna have a good pop on it. All right, guys, work on those three really good drills. They're gonna help you with your driving, and you're gonna have so much more fun out there. In the beginning of this video, we talked about how we need to have those nice smooth transitions and make this big turn in our golf swing. That's what we call the power turn in the Top Speed golf system. It's probably one of the best things you can do for your swing speed. And in fact, our members within the first 45 days, on average, they gain about 11 yards of driving distance. That's a pretty good gain for a relatively short period of time. We've had members write in that have even gained 40 and 50 yards of driving distance. So it's really exciting when we think about that. Well, I'm gonna play a preview of one of our best power turn videos, and it's gonna show you how to get really wound up, get some more speed, and make golf a lot more fun. If you want to see that full video, just click the card that pops up on your screen or down below in the link in the description. You'll get instant access to that video, plus a lot of free bonuses. I'll see you guys soon. With the correct technique, we can all hit it with really good distance without a lot of muscular effort. And it all starts out, the very first thing you have to do is get a good powerful turn to load up the body. And it's not only in golf, but in all sports we have to rotate the body. At least 90 degrees with the shoulders as you swing to the top. Preferably, we can go even a little bit past 90 to really get loaded up. That's gonna allow us to have a lot of power. So we don't just have to look at golf for this. Let's actually look at other sports. They're rotating their body, then they're coming forward. So we have to get that load. We have to get this big shoulder turn to be able to create power in the golf swing. So in this series of videos, I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that. That's one of the first keys to getting power, and we're all gonna get at least a 90-degree turn, if not more than that. I think you'll be surprised at what you can do. So let's go ahead and get started with the next series of videos, and I'm gonna show you how to get this big, powerful turn. All right, guys, so before we go, let's take a look at this in action with some of the top pros. Now here we're looking at Adam Scott, and you're gonna see as he rotates to the top, good full shoulder turn. This is pretty typical of what I see with the top pros, a little past 90. Those guys are working on their flexibility, so sometimes they can get to 100 or even 110 degrees.